Okay, part two of testosterone for dummies. I'm not calling anybody a dummy, of course. It's just like the books, Plumbing for Dummies or whatnot. I thought it would be a cute name, but it's basically like testosterone use 101. In my previous video, I talked about SHBG being a huge factor in it, okay? That's one of the biggest factors in controlling the amount that you're getting. And whenever we're up out of range, that starts creeping up and will blunt no matter how much we're taking after several weeks. That's why when you go up in dose, you feel a little better and you'll get some gains for a while, but after a couple months it just levels off. And if you haven't watched my video on the SHBG, quickly before you watch this, watch the video on SHBG. But for this, I'm going to talk about the hypothalamus. One of the biggest factors in using testosterone and being up out of range is it affects the hypothalamus. Our hypothalamus controls all of our hormonal function, controls the pituitary gland and the adrenal cortex, okay? And when we suppress the hypothalamus, what happens is when we're up out of range, the hypothalamus gets suppressed and the anterior side of our pituitary gland also gets it has some issues because of that, because that's the side that that helps us release testosterone. That side gets signaled to release luteinizing hormone, which then, and follicle stimulating hormone, and then we produce testosterone, and it controls the regeneration of the upkeep of the testicles. That's why we get the testicular atrophy when we're out of range. Most commonly, even doctors prescribe these bolus shots, and that's completely wrong, because you go up so out of range that it suppresses the hypothalamus, the testicles shrink, our adrenal cortex starts to be less, it doesn't function at as high of a degree, and we start to become less sensitive to things like caffeine. Our body temperature regulation gets thrown off, our heart rate, even our blood pressure, other hormones that are affected on that side of the pituitary gland. Our hunger gets thrown off. That's why after a while your appetite will go down. Your sleep cycle, you'll notice that it throws you off where you can't sleep at night, but you're tired during the day. And eventually the sex drive, no matter how much you're taking, goes down, and it just isn't as good as it was when you first went on. Controls thirst. You'll find yourself getting extra thirsty. Fluid balance, salt, water, you start retaining water. And there's effects on even things like bone growth, growth hormone, and your emotions can get thrown off. It throws off your mood. You can have anxiety, depression, things like that. And some of that mitigates by going up in dose, but a lot of some of them, like blood pressure, emotions, water retention, heart rate, sex drive, that stuff just keeps getting worse and worse as time goes on. And also will start to throw your triglycerides off. And what's another good one that I wanted to point toward? The blood starts to get too thick. That's why guys commonly are always being told to donate blood. And for some reason, doctors haven't been able to pinpoint this why, but that's the reason. It's just we're taking too much. When we go up in too high of a dose, the body does suppress it with the SHBG. And that, like I said before, That's why after a couple of months, even on like 200 milligrams, you'll go in and your levels will be between 800 and 1100. And to the doctor, that looks like you're in good range. But on that much testosterone, your levels should be twice that. And as I said, if they checked you a week or two after you started taking it, your levels would be way up there. And that's why you feel like Superman for the first few weeks, and then that levels off. And it's just this negative loop that keeps going on. By doing my microdosing protocol, you can have your levels at 1,000 every day and not suppress the hypothalamus, not raise the SHBG, your estrogen levels don't go up, your free test can continue to climb. And of course, I have some supplements that go really just hand in hand, like peanut butter and jelly with that. So in my next video, I'll draw out on the marker board how this dosing works. And I have 100% success rate with it. Like I said, I've been consulting some doctors on this, and they all catch on and understand it once I point out the factors of what does what. They're educated enough that they're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And I'll spin off from here on some, I won't go too deep in it, but like some cycling advice, blasting, cruising, and some alternative ways to take testosterone, get as much out of it as you can. In the old days, even like orals, one of the biggest issues guys thought we had to have these constant levels, and that's not true. Our body doesn't even really use testosterone at night. We're supposed to have low testosterone at night. That's what we're finding, is it's not the fact that you're out of range, it's the fact that you're out of range at night. It's your circadian rhythm, okay? So during the day, we can produce very large amounts of testosterone, and that doesn't affect us. It's the fact that when we're going to bed at night, we're still elevated. That's when everything gets thrown off. The body starts to counteract it. The SHBG goes up and blunts the testosterone. The estrogen levels go up. The hypothalamus is suppressed. The testes start to shrink. All your appetite, sleep, sex drive, thirst, fluid balance, emotions, heart rate, blood pressure, body temp, all that gets thrown off. A lot of guys will understand what I'm saying when you get like night sweats, but then you wake, then you're freezing. You just insomnia, but then lethargic during the day. Appetite is very irregular. There's times you're just not hungry and you feel like you're retaining water. The sex drive eventually goes down, and so on and so on. The blood becomes too thick, your blood pressure's up. There's several factors that have to do with the blood pressure, the fluid retention, and the thickening of the blood. So we can mitigate all this stuff by dosing properly. And the thing is, in the past, guys didn't understand how this is working. 99% of people didn't. And the lowest guys would go would be like 200 milligrams a week, because everybody believed that was a TRT dose. But your body actually blunts most of it after 8 weeks, and you're only getting about 10 milligrams a day worth, no matter how much you're taking. And then you go up in dose, and this happens again and again. And what guys were thinking is, you take so much, and after a while you quit growing, and they think, well, this is how big I get on this much. When in all reality, the body has just blunted the testosterone. So then let's say they go up to 400 milligrams, they'd grow for a while, but then it stops, they're maintaining. That's because they just have enough testosterone to maintain. And they think, well, this is how big I gotta get on this dose. Eventually they would come off and crash, and after a few weeks panic, go back on, but then they go back on the amount they were taking before, because their mind would think, this is how much I have to take to get so big. And that just keeps going and going. And eventually guys are taking grams of stuff and not really gaining anymore. You know, I've seen it where guys are taking 2,000 milligrams and they're not gaining another pound of muscle. It's because their body has counteracted it. Another thing that goes on that I'd like to bring up is the desensitization of the androgen receptors. Just like when we have too much insulin, our insulin receptors don't function at as high of a degree as they would when they're fully functional. That same thing happens to the androgen receptors, okay? So not only are your levels brought down from the SHBG and aromatized into estrogen, but your receptors don't send as strong of a signal as they would when your hypothalamus and everything is completely recouped. We've talked about Humanofort, and I'll talk about that as we go along. The reason the receptors that happens is completely controlled by growth factors. The growth factors quit being released that bind to those receptors and turn them on such a high degree. So by taking Humanofort in a proper dose where you're not shut down, the hypothalamus can be restored, the testes are brought back, the adrenal cortex goes back up, and the receptors start to function at a high degree again. When we've been shut down long enough, this actually won't really happen at a very good degree without using Humanofort. That's where this product is so unique. It can restore these functions. And after guys have beat these things up so bad with time, by simply coming off, they don't respond again like they used to. But by implementing this, you get that sensitivity back and all the functions, your blood work balances out. So we can take methodically very small amounts daily to bring us up to that high end of normal and maintain muscle mass and feel good, but not suppress our functions, and we can still release bits of testosterone on our own. And I have, you can see some of the podcasts I've done with some of the pro bodybuilders. A couple people have competed in Olympia. We have guys that are in their 50s and 60s competing in the Masters Olympia, and a whole bunch of other guys that I've helped with this protocol. And I'm not joking, 100% have success if they do it properly. And then from there, we can safely do some blasting and cruising for short 8-week periods. And that's the point where things start to get thrown off. We can recoup again, go back at it. This is what I use with my clients, and I have great success. It's really important to me that my clients have good blood work and they're healthy, because we can do this clear into older life without screwing ourselves up, but we have to be smart about it. And that's what's important to me. My health was shot, and I've been working my ass off to try to fix this so guys don't go down this road like I went down. And I've had, with my clients, I've had 100% success rate, and they can't believe it. I hear it all the time that when they do this, they're like, holy shit, I haven't lost any muscle, and I used to take so much. And it blows their mind, because people are all in this mindset that it's a certain amount that does something. And it's just the fact that you have a little more testosterone. We can only use so much at a time. So when we go up, if we go from ground zero to like 800 milligrams or even 400 or 500 milligrams, it's just more than we can actually use. And we're just further desensitizing ourselves, so we won't respond to any less than that. And we can take much less and be much healthier. It's less expensive, and it's the absolute best way to go about it. So next video I will draw it out you know, like how we dose and how it works. I'll talk about like cypionate or enanthate, and then some either like something fast acting like an oral or a testosterone suspension. All right. So stay tuned, and I'll get that to you in the next week or so. All right. Thanks.